Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Continuing on the topic of longevity, we are now taking up a method suggested by Shri V.P.Goel sir in his excellent book on this method called the Unravelling the Puzzle of Longevity. So it's an excellent book. He introduces the method of what he calls it as the PAM method, which is P stands for the Purnayu, A for Alpayu, M for Madhayu. So Purnayu, Alpayu, Madhayu. And essentially movable signs give Purnayu, fixed signs Alpayu. Common signs are in between, so they Madhayu. And the bracketed years of life contributed, totally it's 108 years. You divide into 1/3 and that will be 36 years. So the Alpayu would be within 36 years. The Madhayu would be 36 to 72 and Purnayu is 72 to 108. Now our Goel sir's method is based upon scrutiny of this PAM, based upon very importantly 3 divisional charts, the D3 which is a Trishkona chart, the Navamsa chart and the Dwadasamsa chart. Essentially these are very important charts. And two important fulcrum points, the Lagna and very importantly the Hora Lagna. I would say it's extremely important to find out what the Hora Lagna is. And based upon this, when we put the questions like whether they are in a movable sign or a fixed sign or a dual sign, and you count this for all these charts, 3 charts, the 2 of these items. And if the 2 factors, they might be either indicating P or a or a M. And if 2 factors indicate P, say, then it's a Purnayu case. If 2 factors indicate A, then it's Alpayu, and that way. So the majority decides the Ayush, the bracketed Ayush. But within this, it's a big span, in fact. This itself is a good span. So we'll have to arrive at the actual narrower span by going through the Dasha system. And the Dasha that Goelji uses, he calls it as the NST Dasha or the Nirayana Shoola Dasa. Nirayana Shoola Dasa is a Rasi Dasha in which each Rasi is attributed 9 years of Dasha. And there are 12 Rashis. So 12 into 9 turns out to be 108 years. Whereas if you have to use Jagannatha Hora, I find it this is matching with the Shoola Dasha of Jagannatha Hora. So we would use the Shoola Dasha and not the Nirayana Shoola Dasha. Though the terminology by Goelji is Nirayana Shoola Dasha, in Jagannatha Hora it turns out to be the Shoola Dasha. So the charts of importance here are the D1, essentially for basically after arriving at all these dashas, D1, D9, the D9, D3 and D12 I already listed, and the nature of death and which would be the dasha that would be very difficult. You will have to use the Trimsamsa, and in the Trimsamsa, Goelji uses the cyclical or Parivritti Trimsamsa, as I found it out, and he uses a D108 chart, and he calls it as the Ayushamsa. And this I make from custom divisional chart and use the cyclical approach in Jagannatha Hora to get it. So essentially to use this method, one has to really find out, use the proper, first find out the Hora Lagna. That's important. Hora Lagna and where it falls in all these charts. That's very important. So I erected an Excel file to do that. So the user has to input only the time of birth and the sunrise, the sunset if required. Sunrise and sunset are required, and the sunrise the next day, so that you get the duration of the night or duration of the day, depending upon whether your birth is a daytime or a night birth. So only the blue colored ones you will have to input. on the longitude of the sun at the time of birth. Here, once we input it, the Excel calculates the Hora Lagna as suggested by the book. So Hora Lagna is going to be different based upon night birth or day birth, and Hora Lagna is basically the number of horas crossed is based upon duration of the night. This portion is for the night portion, this is for the day portion. So the calculation is very simple. You find the duration of the day. Duration of the day is, let us maybe calculate it for the daytime first. The duration of the day is basically the sunrise time. You don't need to use the sunset time here. Yeah, sunrise to sunset, what is the difference is the duration of the day. And Hora is 12 horas, totally 24 horas for the 24 hours. So 12 hora for the daytime, 12 hora for the night time. So you essentially divide the duration of the day by 12 and get a hora hour. The time elapsed from the sunrise to the birth time and the number of horas passed. So you get that from these things. So you don't have to touch any of this. So the overall longitude is put in here, and it turns out to be, for this example, Scorpio 16 degrees. So now I go back to Jagannatha Hora, and Jagannatha Hora you have to use specific charts here. As I said, the Rasi is okay, known to us. Navamsa, there are, Parashara Navamsa is what is used. Traditional Trishkona is what is used. So it is the traditional Parashara Trishkona that is used. In Dwadasamsa also, it is the traditional Parashara Dwadasamsa that is used. In Trimsamsa, the Parivritti cyclical Trimsamsa is used. And when you have to cast a D108 chart, I go to the custom divisional chart for research and use 108, and this is the choice that is cyclical. So that is what is reproducing the charts where the book is using these charts basically. And another thing, that now that you have calculated the Hora Lagna 16 degrees 30 minutes 15 seconds in Scorpio, so you will have to include that. So I go to edit and go to the user defined special point and give some name, Hora Lagna of Goelji, or some name as a symbol. Also you give some symbol, and then you put the 16 degrees 30 minutes 15 seconds that you calculated here ahead of Scorpio, so from the beginning of Scorpio, and then choose a OK here, and it will put the HLG, the Hora Lagna Goelji of this chart here. And also it reproduces that placement in all the other charts. So here it is in pieces, here it is Dwadasamsa, it is in Rishabh. So all that is put in. How is this used further? You have to go to the another sheet here and enter in the D3, in D9 and D12, the three charts. What is the ascendant? What is the Hora Lagna? What is the ascendant? What is the Hora Lagna? And so on and so forth. So let us do that for this chart. So let me place it here, and then let the Excel be placed at one side. So the ascendant in D3, come to the Dreshkona chart, and the ascendant is Makara. So that's the 10th. So you have to choose 10 there. The Hora Lagna is Pisces, which is 12, chosen by me there. D9, Navamsa is Karkataka, so 4 is chosen. Hora Lagna here is Scorpio, which is the 8th sign, so choose 8 here. In D12, which is the Dwadasamsa, Makara is rising, so choose 10 here. The Hora Lagna is Taurus, you choose 2 here. And it turns out that it is a short life, a medium life, and a medium life based upon D3, D9, and D12. Since the majority is MM, it shows the medium life in this case. So When we come to medium life, we immediately switch over to the Dasha system. In the Dasha system, I go to the Rashi Dasha, and in the Rashi Dasha, there are multiple Rashi Dashas there. Don't choose the Nirayana Shoola Dasa, choose the Shoola Dasa. That's what Goelji uses, but he calls it as the Nirayana Shoola Dasa, whereas Jagannath Aura calls it as Shoola Dasa. And since it's the Madhya, you see basically 12 signs would be here. So 12 signs, you can basically, this would be the Alpayu case, which will be the first 4 cases. Okay. And this would be the Madhayu, 1, 2, 3, and 4. The third would be the Dirghayu, the full Purnayu. So in this case, we arrived at it is to be the first 4 signs Alpayu you would cross through, and then you will also come to Madhayu because the longevity we found it to be Madhayu. So of the 4 signs, one Pisces, Aries, Taurus, and Gemini, which would be fatal, is something to be determined by us reading the Trimsamsa chart, the Dwadasamsa chart, Rasi chart, and all that. And we have to justify ourselves in this case. So, if you see Pisces as Jupiter in Drishkona, so Jupiter is a benefic planet. So, but Ragu Ketu are there, so it could be a little difficult because of Ragu Ketu. But Jupiter's presence can offset many fatalities. So it might not be fatal. And Saturn is only 6th house. Saturn is not aspecting the Lagna, the Pisces sign. So Jupiter might not, the Pisces sign might not be a killer sign. In Drishkona, you can also check that in Trimshamsa Jupiter is again there. So it will be a fairly nice sign for the person. And Saturn is not aspecting it even in Trimshamsa. Whereas, Dwadasamsa Mars is there. But again, Saturn is not aspecting it. So that might not be a very fatal dasha, that PCN dasha. The Aries dasha, here again Venus Subha is there. The Lagna Lord is Mars here. And of course, there is not much of an evil there. Saturn is again in the 5th only, not aspecting it. And it's away from Rahu Ketu also. Here also doesn't seem to be very dangerous here in Trimsamsa. In Dwadasamsa also it doesn't seem to be dangerous. When you come to Taurus, in the Taurus sign, it's the Lagna in the Rasi itself. And the Taurus sign aspected by Saturn. So that's an important feature here in the Drishkona. In Dwadasamsa, it is the 5th sign. Saturn is aspecting it again. In Trimsamsas, again Saturn is aspecting. So this could be a very difficult time. In fact, the person passed away during this Magadasha of Taurus. So this would be, you'll have to, you can narrow down further into finer subdashas as well and check it out. But essentially the inputs of Hora Lagna and the method can be used by us easily, comfortably. Hopefully this is a useful tool. The Excel, I will share it, and let us, the book has umpteen examples, and maybe we can give a try with all those examples and use it for predictions carefully, definitely. Thank you.